We had a controversial call against an NHL star in Chicago. The Avs continue to roll behind their MVP. The Canadiens are falling fast while the Leafs and Oilers' struggles continue. Details on all that and more on this edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, your teams every day. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of the night in the NHL during the regular season playoffs. And we are here for you wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, an LA Kings fan on the West Coast. He is Shukri Wrights, a Boston Bruins fan on the East Coast. Together, we're going to get you caught up on all the goals, saves, big moments, and stories from the night in the NHL with a big assist from our Locked On local experts. Shu, 12 games on a busy Tuesday in the NHL. We had a lot of things to get into.
Certainly a very busy night and not short for storylines, including one in Chicago. A big one.
And that's where we're going to begin, as the Blackhawks are hosting the Kraken. Not one of the marquee matchups on the night necessarily, but certainly a very interesting finish that a lot of people are talking about. Big third period for Seattle. They get the 3-2 win, but it was a controversial call that gave the Kraken a late power play that they scored on to win the game. The story, we'll get the inside story from one of our local experts, the host of Locked On Chicago Blackhawks, and that is Jack Bushman.
Very disappointing 3-2 loss to the Seattle Kraken at the United Center. They were on the verge of extending their point streak to 7 games as they led 2-0 after 40 minutes, only to give up 3 unanswered goals in the third period and fall 3-2. The biggest moment of the game, Connor Bedard with a breakaway opportunity late in the third period. Looked like he might have gotten hooked or slashed. No call on the play. Turns around, barks at the officials because of the lack of a call. Winds up getting an unsportsmanlike conduct minor himself, and the Kraken potted the game-winning goal on that ensuing power play. Frustrating loss for the Blackhawks as they let a major opportunity slip out of their grasp. I'll get into more key takeaways on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blackhawks.
And thanks to Jack Bushman for that there at the United Center. Jaden Schwartz with the power play goal, his 8th of the year to win it for Seattle. You don't like to see officials necessarily deciding a game. And yes, the Blackhawks still could have killed off that penalty. And we don't know what Connor Bedard exactly said, but what did you think about that call that gave Seattle that opportunity on Connor Bedard?
The call was one thing, but the biggest issue for me was Connor Bedard in this situation. Now, is one thing to be upset, but you got to be cognizant of where you are and the fact that your actions put your team on a penalty kill, and that ultimately cost you the game. So for me, Connor Bedard has got to be a lot more mature and a lot more wiser than that in that situation, not to allow his emotions to put his team behind the 8 ball on a penalty kill. So Connor Bedard's got to be better than that.
And he said the right things after the game, said, I've got to be better, and so on and so forth. So we'll see if he learns from it, but certainly a call that you don't see a lot. Unsportsmanlike late in the game when a 2-2 game that kind of helps decide things. Not something you see a lot. Joey Decord for Seattle allowed 2 goals on 24 shots. He had a big game. Seattle 10-5-5 with that win. Chicago falls to 10-6-4. The Colorado Avalanche continue to roll, looking like the best team in the NHL. 7 wins in a row as they knock off the New York Rangers 6-3 behind their superstar. Let's get a report on this one from one of the co-hosts of Locked On Colorado Avalanche, and that is Chris Maselli.
The Colorado Avalanche double up the New York Rangers and win this game 6-3. And it's Nathan MacKinnon with a 3-point night, 2 goals, 1 assist for him, moves him into second place all-time in franchise history of points. The only one he's looking up at right now is, of course, Joe Sakic, and we can revisit when he catches him in about 6 years or so. So we'll circle back to that in about 6 or 7 years. But for the Avalanche, they do what they continue to do all season long, and that's just keep the pressure on teams. They make you play almost a perfect game to beat them, and that's what the Rangers had to do. The Rangers had some really nice goals, high danger attempts, high danger goals, but you don't get a lot of those. And for the Avalanche, they shut them down in the shots on goal department, 35-19. The Rangers did not have double-digit shots on goal in any period, and that just makes it all the more difficult to beat the team that leads the league in goals scored. And it's tough to beat the Avalanche right now. You have Nathan MacKinnon, a 3-point night, Cale Makar, 3-point night, Martin H's 3-point night. And when those guys are rolling, good luck. So the Avs continue to sock away points. They become just the fourth team to lose one game in regulation in the first 20 games of the season. They're just on a roll right now.
That they are, and thanks to Chris Maselli for that. 14-1-5 is the record for Colorado. There's a lot of teams doing a lot of nice things so far this season, but clearly at this point, Colorado has put themselves ahead of everyone else.
They're clearly, as the old saying goes, head and shoulders above everyone else in the NHL. And tonight was exactly like the example of what you look for the Avs. And Cale Makar, another dominant showing by the best defenseman in the NHL. And Nathan MacKinnon, another virtuoso performance. And as Avalanche continue to find different ways to win each and every single night. And that's all you can ask for a team that has exactly just one regulation loss in 20 games.
Nathan MacKinnon now 16 goals leading the NHL. Speaking of goal scorers, the Washington Capitals have one of those guys. He's been doing it as well as anyone for a long time. Caps are in Montreal to take on the Canadiens, who suddenly find themselves in a bit of a tailspin. 8-4, the Capitals win behind the great 8. Let's check in with the host of Locked On Washington Capitals, Dan Holme.
3 in a row. Hi, this is Dan Holme of Locked On Capitals. Well, it does appear as though the Capitals found their goal-scoring touch as they down the Canadiens by a score of 8-4, and Alex Ovechkin scoring a hat trick in this game. That is goals number 905, 906, and 907. He is one of 3 in NHL history to score goals in 4 straight at the age of 40. But it's not just about the great 8, it's about the depth scoring. Ethan Frank, 2 goals. Sonny Milano, 2 goals. Chikrin finds Twine as well. So this team, minus 2 big offensive contributors in Nick Dowd and PLD, is actually even playing better. And Justin Sordoff, who started the season as this fourth-line right wing, has been the guy to fill in for PLD on that second-line center position. This team is playing very well, and it's 3 straight: Kings, Oilers, Canadiens. We hope that they can keep the good times rolling as they take on the Lightning this weekend.
All right, thanks to Dan Holme for that report. For Ovechkin, his, as you heard, 8th, 9th, and 10th goals of the season, 33rd career hat trick. And in the process, he passed Joe Sakic for 10th on the all-time scoring list, our second Joe Sakic reference of the game so far. Washington is starting to play a little bit better hockey, but Montreal is fading fast. And the way things are in the East, everything is so tight. If you go on a big winning streak or losing streak, you can find yourselves making a big move in the standings or falling in the standings. That's 5 losses in a row now for Montreal, and they are completely out of a playoff spot at this point. They were one of the great young stories early in the season. They need to turn things around pretty soon. I know they've been hit by injuries, but everybody has to deal with injuries.
And it's true, and you're absolutely right, Eddie. They have been bit by injuries, but the injuries that they've been bit with have been pretty devastating. And unfortunately, like, their play on the ice has not helped matters like whatsoever. And unfortunately, like, they're gonna have to like figure it out like fast before it is too late. Because the reality is the razor thin margin for error in the division, in the Atlantic Division, is pretty thin. It's getting thinner by each and every night with the amount of teams that are so closely bunched in the standings.
Jakub Dobeš allowed 4 goals on 21 shots, got pulled in the second period in this one for Montreal. And the Islanders were at the Red Wings. New York is looking strong. An impressive 5-0 shutout win in Detroit, and their road trip was impressive. Let's get the details on this one from the host of Locked On New York Islanders, Gil Martin.
The New York Islanders score a convincing 5-0 shutout win over the Detroit Red Wings to end their road trip with a 6-1 record. The story of the game, Max Shabanov with a 3-point night, 2 goals and 1 assist as the Islanders' fourth line was electric tonight after struggling for much of the season. Ilya Sorokin earns the shutout. And this Islanders team, they're playing up-tempo. They're making better passes. They're more disciplined defensively. And believe it or not, after all this time, this team is fun to watch. The confidence is growing. Sorokin has returned to form. And up and down the lineup, different players are stepping up every game. For more in-depth daily coverage of your New York Islanders, check out the Locked On Islanders podcast.
Thanks to Gil Martin for that. Bo Horvat added his 14th goal of the season as well. But New York now 12-7-2 on the season. And as you heard Gil say, 7-game road trip. They go 6-1. That is impressive for anyone.
It's very impressive, especially when you're away from home for that long. And for me, my main takeaway for this game is the performance of Ilya Sorokin, who looked like the Ilya Sorokin of all being a Vezina contender and all. And it was pretty good to see him like dominate tonight in between the pipes for the Islanders, and as well as to see the player Maxim Shavna play well on that fourth line with Keith Zizekas and Callum Ritchie as well.
All right, the struggles for the Leafs and Oilers continue, and the Panthers and Lightning combined to score 3 total goals, and they both won. Details coming up on Locked On NHL Game Night. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have a full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch's built for people with busy lives. If you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can maximize investments, increase your savings rate, easily review finances with your partner or financial advisor, all while keeping a clear view of your financial health week to week and long term. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with the code LOCKEDONNHL. All right, let's get right back into it. Again, busy Tuesday. We had the Maple Leafs at home taking on the Blue Jackets. This one goes in overtime, and Columbus pulls out the game winner into sudden death by a score of 3-2. Let's check in with one of our local experts, the host of Locked On Columbus Blue Jackets, and that is Jay Forster.
Kind of seems like the rumors of Adam Fantilli's demise were a little bit exaggerated, let's say. Big win for the Blue Jackets in Toronto. Another blown lead in the third period, but just an absolutely monster game from Adam Fantilli. 2 goals, an assist. That assist should really have counted as a goal, but we'll let Dmitry Voronkov have that one. Since being elevated to the top line 8 games ago, Adam Fantilli now has 10 points for 16 points on the season, and he was the catalyst tonight. He was incredible. Kid loves to play the Leafs. What can I say? You love to see it. Strong night for Jack Reeves as well. 27 of 29 saves, I believe, for him. Again, we love to see the Ontario-born kids doing well against the Leafs. We're going to break all of this down on tomorrow's Locked On Blue Jackets.
Adam Fantilli with goals 7 and 8 on the season and a beautiful overtime game winner to end this. But Toronto is always going to be a story. 9-9-3, and yes, they don't have Austin Matthews and they don't have Matthew Nyes, but again, injuries hit every team. You got to overcome them. 1-4-2, the record for Toronto over their last 7 games. So again, the Leafs still trying to figure it out. Austin Matthews getting him back will help, but there's bigger problems there in Toronto.
It certainly is, and one of them being is that they're not finishing well, and that was something that that during the post game that Craig Berube actually touched on. But defensively they've been better. But however, they just have to do a better job of finishing games, and ultimately they're gonna have to piece it together until they're able to get more healthy bodies back in the lineup.
Speaking of struggling teams north of the border, the Oilers are in Tampa Bay to take on the Lightning. This one low scoring. It goes overtime, and Tampa Bay gets the Jake Gensel goal, his 12th of the year, to pull out a 2-1 1 victory. Andrei Vasilevsky allowed 1 goal in 24 shots, 3 straight saves in overtime right before Jake Gensel goes down to end it and win it. But the part of the story again here is the Edmonton Oilers, the 2-time Stanley Cup participants, right now struggling. They have lost 3 in a row and 4 of 5. Let's check in with the host of Locked On Oilers, Nick Zararis, to get the latest from him.
Games of pretty meandering hockey. Oiler fans probably don't want to hear a whole lot about sentimental victories, moral victories, but managing to get to overtime against the Lightning in a game where the Oilers generated less than 1.5 expected goals at 5-on-5 on a night where they scored 1 singular goal has to unfortunately feel like a victory for a team where so much has gone against them. And in a season where you can't find a break, you can't manufacture a break, stacking up these loser points now while the team is in the wilderness is essential to keep pace, especially in a Western Conference where it looks like it's going to start to pull away, unlike what's going on in the East, where the second wild card is 4 points away from last place in the East. So the Oilers have their work cut out for them, but tonight you can exhale with your loser point. You won't sleep great, but they did get something out of that loss in Tampa Bay tonight.
All right. And thanks to Nick Zararis for that. Yeah, the Oilers are still trying to piece it together. You know, maybe when they do and they'll hit the gas, and of course they've got those 2 monsters in McDavid and Draisaitl, but still not quite where they need to be at this point.
Certainly that they aren't. And you know, like one of the things that on that I think that the Oilers are going to have to, like, you know, really figure out is getting that critical, like, second point. Like, it was really, like, disappointing to see how the game ended for the Oilers, but thrilling if you're a Lightning's fan, of course. So Edmonton is going to have to, like, you know, figure out a way to get that extra point, especially in a time where, like, things are starting to pull away in the West.
Staying in the state of Florida, the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Panthers hosting the Devils. 1 goal scored in this one, and it was scored by the Panthers in a 1-0 victory. Let's get a report on this one from the host of Locked On Florida Panthers, Armando Velez.
Panthers respond, winning a high-event game on Monday to winning a low-event game on Thursday, defeating the Devils by a final score of 1-0. The Panthers scored early thanks to a filthy goal by Sam Reinhart, and the Panthers shut it down from there. This was also one of those games where there wasn't a lot of stoppages, so not a lot of face-offs for the Panthers, so they were relying on needing the necessary line changes in order to keep the puck pressure on the New Jersey Devils. And also, this game did not have a lot of power plays, only 3 of them on the night, as the Panthers only got 1 in the third period. And the Panthers shutting it down, Sergei Bobrovsky being kept clean. The Devils were forced to the outside, but Bobrovsky kept his best, saved his best for last, as he was able to get his 51st shutout of his outstanding NHL career. We're going to break all this down and more on tomorrow's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Your team every day.
All right, thanks to Armando Velez for that. Obviously, Sergei Bobrovsky, 31 saves in the shutout. Sam Reinhart, his 11th goal of the year. He's got 9 goals in his last 12 games, so he's heating up. Jake Allen, a tough luck loser in this one for New Jersey, he allowed 1 goal on 24 shots, but obviously got no run support, as we like to say. But of course, New Jersey trying to figure things out with no Jack Hughes for a while. First time they were shut out this season.
Certainly. And on top of that, you know, Sam Reinhart, who has been absolutely on fire as well, 9 goals in his last 12 games for the Panthers, who also are playing good hockey during the stretch, winning 4 of the last 5 games. But, you know, as you mentioned, like Jake Allen making the 23 saves for the Devils, but also offensively, they have struggled a little bit since Jack Hughes has gone down with the injury as well.
Flyers hosting the Blues. It started well for St. Louis, but like a lot of things for them this year, did not finish well. It goes overtime, and Philadelphia gets the 3-2 victory. Let's check in with one of the co-hosts of Locked On Philadelphia Flyers, Rachel Donner.
Is going to have a lot to say about this one, I'd bet, as Dan Vladar set the table for a huge overtime win. Hi, I'm Rachel Donner from Locked On Flyers, and heading into tonight's game versus the St. Louis Blues, Philadelphia Flyers head coach Rick Tocchet was emphasizing 2 main things they were trying to practice: not getting backed into the defensive zone and avoiding getting a slow start. One might be able to argue they didn't have a slow start as much as a medium start with a lack of finish, but they were hemmed in for a lot of the first two periods of this game. The fourth line, including goal scorer Rodrigo Abos, stood out early, but once again, the Flyers managed to crawl back from a 2-goal deficit to the Blues with another one from Tyson Forster in the third. Vladar then stood on his head for the remainder of regulation and into OT, and then Travis Sanheim wrote the rest of this one with that game winner on his own. More on this game on the Friday show of the Locked On Flyers podcast.
All right, thanks to Rachel Donner for that one. Dan Vladar was not, he was not looked upon as one of these great free agent pickups necessarily, but he's turned out to be really, really solid for the Philadelphia Flyers this year.
He right now is their MVP, and that's not hyperbole. Like, he's been that important in which that for a team that suddenly is finding themselves in playoff contention this season. Dan Vladar is a massive reason why. He was a massive reason why the Flyers were able to come back from being down 2-0, and which that Justin Falk had 2 goals in that first period, but the Flyers kept chipping away, and they ultimately were able to complete the comeback via the Travis Sanheim game-winning goal in OT.
That's 4 losses in a row now for struggling St. Louis. The Dallas Stars starting to look like the team that a lot of people thought they would be at the start of the season. We'll get into that next here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've heard them all before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. When it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms or in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit Rugiet.com, Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL, and you'll get 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet.com, Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL, and don't forget to use the code LockedOnNHL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. And the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game, it doesn't really matter. You can place live bets on anything from any time. Start of the game, middle of the game, end of the game, whatever you want, and you can bet on just about anything, which player is going to score the next bucket or how many points he's going to score for the game by quarter, by half, total. Plus, you can combine your live bets into a same game parlay, player points, over-unders, who's going to win, combine it all together, and if they hit, you'll get an even bigger payout. You want to bet on your favorite team? That's great, but you can bet on the other team too. And if the game turns out to be a stinker, you can make it more interesting by placing a wager or 2 or 3. And the over-unders, regardless of what's going on, buzzer beaters, 20-point blowout, it doesn't matter. FanDuel makes every game exciting, no matter what kind of game it is. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's right. You'll get $300 in bonus bets by just hitting your first $5 bet. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. We are coming down the home stretch here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Let's check in with the Utah Mammoth hosting the Vegas Golden Knights, and Vegas maybe starting to get on track. They get a 4-1 win over Utah thanks to a big game from Jack Eichel. Let's check in with the host, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Vegas Golden Knights, and that is Chris Golick.
The Vegas Golden Knights defeat the Utah Mammoth by a score of 4-1. 2 goals by Jack Eichel, 1 by Braden Bowman, and Ben Hutton. Ben Hutton, goals in consecutive games after going approximately a year and a half without scoring. This Golden Knights team is playing a lot better hockey as of late as they shift into a difficult part of the schedule. They'll be traveling to Anaheim to face the Ducks, then right back to Utah for a game against the Mammoth. Make sure you check out the Locked On Vegas Golden Knights podcast on YouTube and anywhere you catch your podcast. Your team every day.
And thanks to Chris Golick for that. Akira Schmid in net, 1 goal allowed on 26 shots. A couple months from now, he might be back in the AHL because we'll see if Aiden Hill ever gets healthy, and then Carter Hart's waiting in the wings. So he may not be around too much longer, but he's trying to show the Vegas Golden Knights or maybe some other team out there that he can be an NHL goalie, and he had a nice game against Utah.
And he certainly helped himself tremendously tonight with his performance. And the truth is that like Akira Schmidt he's done more than help keep the Vegas Golden Knights afloat, but he's also been a vital part of keeping the Vegas Golden Knights close to the top of the standings in the Western Conference. And you got to like what you've seen offensively from Jack Eichel tonight, and as well as from the scoring that they exhibited as well, including on Naismith, who had a goal in this one.
Vegas has won 3 of 4. Utah has dropped 4 straight. My LA Kings were in San Jose closing out their road trip to take on the Sharks. San Jose continuing to play surprising hockey. They pull out a shootout victory over the Kings by a score of 4-3, although LA did tie it up late with the goalie pulled to get a point out of it. But let's check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On San Jose Sharks, and that is JD Young.
It's not always pretty, but the San Jose Sharks continue to find a way to scratch out wins. This time a 4-3 shootout win over the LA Kings. The Sharks, a pattern we've seen a lot where they go into the third period, they have a lead, they blow said lead, but they find a way in either overtime and a shootout. Askarov continued his brilliant play with 31 saves tonight on 34 shots. It was perfect in the shootout. The Sharks got a lot of contributions from depth players tonight. Colin Graff with 2 assists, Delandria with a goal as well, Adam Gaudette with a goal, and the Sharks team it's not always pretty, but they keep finding ways to stack points. So we'll break down this game on your next episode of Locked On Sharks, wherever you get podcasts, and of course, you can watch on YouTube as well.
All right, thanks to JD Young for that. Did not mention Philip Kurashev, who had a goal in regulation and scored the only goal in the shootout for San Jose. But the Sharks, 10-4-1 in their last 15 games. For LA, they love going beyond regulation. That's their 9th game this season. They've played either in overtime or a shootout. They're 4-5 in those games. But the Sharks finding a way to get some wins, something they didn't do a lot in the last few years.
You got to give credit where credit is due. Like for the Sharks, in terms of getting those on the wins, in which they are 10-8-3 now. But as far as the Kings, they love extras, they love extra innings or extra rounds of play in hockey in LA these days. But ultimately, if you're the Sharks, you got to be thrilled with what you've been able to see out of some of the veterans like Adam Gaudette. And as well as Philip Kurashev as well.
Senators were in Anaheim to face the Ducks. Ottawa gets a big road win thanks to a late third period goal. 3-2 the final. Let's check in with the host of Locked On Ottawa Senators, one of the co-hosts, and that is Ross Levitan.
Way to start a 7-game road trip. I'm Ross Levitan from Locked On Senators, and with under 2 minutes remaining, Drake Batherson scores the game-winning goal to give Ottawa a 3-2 edge over the Anaheim Ducks. It was frankly a game the Senators deserved to win. High danger chances, 10-0 in the first period, and they peppered Peter Mrazek with a number of grade A opportunities. There were a couple lulls in this game. Start of the third period wasn't great, but Ottawa did enough to earn a victory, and thankfully for all of the East Coast Sens fans, this one didn't keep going past regulation. It was already after midnight. Ottawa gets goals from Nick Cousins, Shane Pinto, and that game winner from Batherson to get the win. Linus Ullmark, fantastic in goal. And we got to give stick taps to a friend of the show. Stephen Halliday, the disher, gets his first game and gets his first assist. We'll discuss it all on the postcast right now, and it'll be available after wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, thanks to Ross Levitan for that. The Ducks' 6-game home winning streak comes to an end. Nice win to start that road trip, as Ross said, for the Ottawa Senators.
Absolutely, and it's a great win for the Senators, in which that tonight, you saw the grit that they exhibited, and with Batherson scoring the game time, the game winning goal with 1:58 remaining in regulation. So you gotta love the effort that was put forward by Ottawa, and as well as the play of Linus Ullmark as well.
And that brings us to our final game of the night, the Dallas Stars in Vancouver to take on the Canucks. Mikko Rantanen did play in this game. He thought maybe he would get a suspension for that hit he had from behind in the crazy finish in the Islanders game the other night, but the NHL saw fit not to suspend him, so he did play in this one. Jason Robertson continues to be absolutely on fire for the Stars. He gets his 12th of the year. That's a goal in 5 straight games now. And over those 5 games, he's got 9 goals and 12 points. And of course, Mikko Rantanen did score a goal as well, his 10th of the year in the 4-2 victory for Dallas over Vancouver. The Stars have now won 6 of 7, 13-5-3 now, the record for the Dallas Stars. They didn't start out hot shoe, but they're starting to look more and more like I said, like the team a lot of us thought they would be at the start of the year.
Oh, absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. And they're starting to put it all together. In which that, listen, like the Moose is loose in Dallas. Rantanen, who continues to lead the charge offensively, but then also Jason Robertson is good to see that he's also been on fire offensively, and Jake Ottinger making a legitimate case for himself, being potentially the number 1 netminder for Team USA at the Olympics. But we shall see.
If you want complete coverage of your favorite NHL team, there is a Locked On NHL Team podcast and YouTube show for you. And of course, this show, Locked On NHL Game Night, is here for you each and every night through the regular season and the playoffs, wrapping up the night in the NHL. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and post your thoughts on everything that happened that you were interested in tonight in the NHL. That'll do it for this episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. I'm Eddie Garcia. Heath Shukri writes. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.